is we don't think fat means greasy. Oh, God, that's how the old folk used to say. Oh, God, we think that if we plant good seed, and then we're going to get good fruit. But if we plant bad seed, ain't nothing going to happen. But let me tell you something. Whatever you plant, it's got to come up. I'm trying to help somebody in here. And so it's the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy that says that when we are obedient, there is blessing. But when we are connected to a community, connected to a nation, and connected to people that are not obedient, there is curse that comes down. And it's around the 47th and the 48th verse that it begins to say that when there is disobedience in the land, famine is always going to show up. That disobedience leads to famine, leads to desecration, and leads to devastation. That disobedience leads to people being desperate. That's the reason you have to be real careful about the communities that you connect yourself to, because whenever you are connected to a community that is rooted in disobedience, you can rest assured that famine is going to show up. God sent me today prophetically to declare into the atmosphere that there is a lot of famine going on around us. That's the reason we're struggling raising our babies with no daddies in the house, because disobedience has brought forth a famine. That's the reason we can't tell our girls from our boys, because y'all gonna be real, disobedience has come into, there's a famine in the land. That's the reason folk can't stay at the church for more than 6 months. They bounce from one church to the next because there's a famine in the land. I wonder if there's somebody in here that can testify that you can see that in certain areas of your life there is a famine going on. You look back, look all around you, look at all the stuff that's going on. The reason our little boys getting in gangs, little girls too, is because there's a famine going on. The reason the nation is so divided, we don't know who to vote for, where to vote, or when to vote. We don't know who's lying, who's telling the truth, who's going to be honest, who's going to make up something just to get elected. There's a famine in the land. Trying to work through it now. Anytime you begin to see priests being consecrated on the basis of them marrying folks of the same sex, it lets you know we're in the midst of a famine. When you see, are y'all going to be real in here? When preachers are more interested in being celebrities than being proclaimers of the gospel of Jesus Christ, you know there is a famine in the land. When folks come to church for how good they can look as opposed to seeing and experience the presence of God, you know there's a famine in the land. When folks are looking for the pastor to affirm them in everything as opposed to just to give them a word from the Lord, you know there's a famine. Oh God, give somebody a high five and tell them that rascal's got to go today. You must understand famine. You have to understand. Disobedience always gives birth to famine. If you can look back over your life, every time you've ever experienced a famine, it was born out of disobedience. It was either your disobedience or your mama or your daddy's disobedience. But somewhere in there, disobedience got in the mix. That's the reason you're struggling like you're struggling. That's the reason you're wrestling. That's the reason you're depressed. There was a famine. Somebody ought to shout glory in here. I feel something rising up along in here. I said earlier this year that every once in a while we got to give a surprise praise because the devil wouldn't expect us to dance and to shout over calling out disobedience. But I wonder if I got about 25 people in here that don't need nobody to give them itching ears, to give them words that fix their itching ears, but they just need a word that challenges their character. I dare you to open your mouth right where you are, look the devil in the face and say, surprise! You thought you had me. You thought you were going to steal my joy. You thought I wasn't going to deal with disobedience. You thought I wasn't going to deal with the curse. But because I know that there's a blessing on the other side, I can open my mouth even in the midst of the famine and say, surprise! Oh, I dare you right now to give somebody a high five and tell them there's a famine in areas of my life. There's a famine that's all around. There's a famine in my community, a famine in my family, but I'm not going to let the devil hold me back, but I'm going to open my mouth and give God a praise. Somebody ought to shout, glory! Glory! Yeah! The power of God. Oh, God. Sit down. We got just a little bit more work to do here. Oh, God. I feel the devil getting mad right along in here. I was telling somebody the other day, the devil has a hit out on the meeting place. Folks getting delivered, folks walking away from crazy stuff. Somebody was sharing their testimony 3 years ago. They got delivered and ain't been back since. But I'm glad the devil, you ain't supposed to like to be here. Oh, I wonder if there's, I dare somebody one more time to shout surprise. Leroy, I feel something pushing me in here. Oh, you got to understand, my God. Just pull someone's hand, shake it like you're going to shake it off. Tell them you're holding delivered hands. You're holding hands that's got victory already. Tell them that might look like a famine, but I know on tomorrow the famine's going to be over. Shake that hand. I feel the power of God here. Sit down, we got just a little bit more work to do.